Okay, thank you, and thank you, Gwen. And I'm gonna set my own timer here, Gwen. So here we go. Start. I'm looking at that. There we go. All right. Here's a standard disclaimer statement for fast readers out there, and I'm going to touch also on the uranium macro for a few slides because I guess unlike Gwen, I really do believe uranium is going to fly this year, and I think this will be really the comeback year for uranium. And here's a video that you got to watch that really tells the story as to why we're seeing unprecedented growth in China and India right now for nuclear expansion. That video went viral about a week ago. A BBC reporter had one of these GoPro cameras he put outside his apartment. And the smog right now in Beijing and 25 other major cities in China and India are multiples above what the World Health Organization and anyone sane considers to be healthy. So when we look at the demand side of the equation, we have to remember that there's a crisis right now in the most populated cities on Earth, and that crisis is an air quality, air pollution crisis, and that's the reason why we're seeing record number of reactors under construction. More reactors are under construction today than in 2010 or 2011 before the Fukushima incident. Very important data point. The second one, which Gwen made, but I just want to emphasize because it's like the only takeaway in understanding the supply side of the equation. No miner on earth makes money at $21 a pound. In commodities, we like to talk about the marginal cost of production. This is not even about that anymore. This is about no man's land. No man's land is what I call when no one makes money. And the cure for lower prices are really low prices. Keep in mind, that's what's happening here on the supply side. But let's talk about the demand side. This is what Gwen also talked about, which is the fact that we have 1 billion pounds of uranium that utilities have to buy over the next 10 years. Utilities don't wait and buy uranium the day before they need it. They need to buy 2 to 4 years in advance of when they need it. And so this is one of the largest uncovered requirements that we have seen in recent times. But go back to this slide. The production cutback news is quite interesting. In the zinc business, everyone talks about Glencore cutting zinc production. Glencore is nowhere near the size of Kazakhstan when it comes to zinc production. Kazakhstan is 40% of global uranium mining. What percentage of oil production is Saudi Arabia? Anyone know right off the bat?
26.
12. Saudi Arabia is 12% of oil production. And if it announced a 10% production cut tomorrow, oil price will go through the roof. Kazakhstan is 40% of uranium production, 4 times the size or weight of Saudi Arabia in the oil business. Kazakhstan is in the uranium business. This should not be overlooked. I think this is the biggest catalyst we've seen in the last 5 years. The last 5 years, every January, uranium stocks go up. The last 5 years, we've never had Kazakhstan announce a 10% production cut news. That is key. And we've had a 6-year prolonged bear market. Uranium stocks, uranium sector is really coming out of an unusually long bear market. Today is Inauguration Day. And it's an important one because this is another key reason we need to look at uranium through a different lens. And the lens is that the last 8 years under Obama, you had a president that refused the word nuclear power in any of his State of the Union speeches. Historically, nuclear power has thrived under Republican administrations and become an afterthought under Democratic leadership. So once again, from a policy point of view, we have a fundamental shift taking place. We have a Republican coming in that not only himself believes in the importance of nuclear power for energy security, but everyone that he has surrounded himself with, advisors, people that previously worked in the Bush administration, are also huge supporters of nuclear power and uranium mining in the US. One of these people, pictured here, the day he was sworn in as Energy Secretary in the Bush administration, is Spencer Abraham. He's the former US Energy Secretary and the last Republican to run the Department of Energy. He also happens to be the chairman, the executive chairman of our company, Uranium Energy. He'll be here on Monday, and we're planning some speaking engagements. That'll come later. But the point is that all you need to do is to look up Spence's policies while he was running the Department of Energy on Wikipedia. And it had to do with innovations on technology to improve energy efficiency. It had to do with energy security. He would tell you that he sat there in that room with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and talked about the fact that it was ridiculous that the US is importing 95% of its uranium requirements, and that was simply a national strategic importance to increase US uranium mining. People that were under him, working at the Department of Energy, like Rick Dearborn, who was his chief of staff, is now an executive director, was in Trump's transition team, and are now part of this new administration coming in. And so how does this position our company? We have one of the largest resource bases for uranium in the United States, in addition to the fact that we also have our uranium projects in South America and Paraguay. Our focus over the last 11 years has been to build a company with a US focus and with the capability to produce uranium and with a specific focus on in-situ recovery, which is in the first quartile of cost for uranium mining. And when you look at where the bedrock is, where the foundation of our company is the South Texas uranium belt. Now, another interesting point to connect for you. The governor of Texas for most of the last 10 years while we were building uranium energy was a guy named Rick Perry, who famously wanted to abolish the Department of Energy, but now he's the new Secretary of Energy. We know him very well. He was very supportive of our company and our industry during the years that we permitted our projects in Texas, understood the fact that it's just mathematically impossible for the US to continue to depend on so much import of uranium from foreign sources. And here we have the perfect storm in the uranium industry. We have an industry that can be a source of economic development and high-paying jobs, and so it checks that box for Trump. It's to help increase the production of a very strategic commodity, being uranium, from US soil. And when you look at Texas, which is the energy capital of the US, and our hub-and-spoke strategy, this is what sets the UEC story apart, which is our infrastructure advantage. It's the fact that we own and control one of only 3 or 4 fully licensed uranium processing plants in the country. This is a brand new facility in South Texas, south of San Antonio, that helps process the uranium that we will mine using the in-situ recovery method from 5 different locations we have in South Texas. Our first location, Palangana, is fully permitted. It was brought into production, but we put Palangana on hold because our strategy is to be a 100% unhedged uranium producer. And as a 100% unhedged uranium producer, we didn't see the benefit of mining and selling uranium at $30 or $25 or $20 a pound. Even though our all-in cost, based on published results that we had, our cash cost was $21 per pound. We put our production on hold. We reduced our operating expenditures. We did not deplete our resources during the downturn. Instead, we invested money in making new discoveries and permitting of new assets. Today, we're almost there with permitting our 3rd uranium project in South Texas called Burke Hollow. A 2nd project called Goliad is also fully permitted for production. Our first project, Palangana, is fully built. And here's the best part. Our Palangana project, because we use the in-situ recovery method, was built for $10 million. $10 million to build a mine. This is apples and oranges compared to the work that has taken place in Athabasca, which is truly exceptional. And by the way, Garrett and I go back, we both graduated the same year from high school from the North Shore. And we used to play basketball against each other. And we have fuzzy memories of how many times I think my high school beat his and vice versa. But we both agree on one thing, which is uranium. And the second thing is, Li Ka-shing, who's the wealthiest man in Asia, has only invested in 2 uranium companies. And that's our company, UEC, and NextGen. And it's because of the completely different approaches that we have. The approach with in-situ recovery puts you on the low end of the capital intensity curve, the low end of the cost curve, where for $10 million you can build a mine. And what we see in the South Texas belt, and the US Geological Survey agrees with us, the US Geological Survey just put out a report that says the South Texas uranium belt is the least explored region in the United States for uranium, with the greatest amount of potential for new uranium discoveries. And so we really feel that this stage is set with the infrastructure advantage that we have at Hobson that has a permitted capacity and physical capacity to produce 2 million pounds of uranium. Our Palangana project is on standby and ready to come online with costs that puts us in the first quartile for uranium production costs, completely unhedged production, with 2 projects in the pipeline with Goliad and Burke Hollow that we can ramp up and bring online as we expand. The other thing that we like about our business that's low cost is the fact that we drill uranium using a technology called PFN, or prompt fission neutron. It's a technology that we bought the IP rights for about 4 years ago. It gives you an instant reading of the uranium when you drill a hole. As a result, we get to drill uranium for basically $1 million. We can drill 130 holes to a depth of 600 feet. Think about it, 130 holes can be drilled because we're not taking core and doing a chemical assay on each one. Our business is very much about using technology to reduce both our exploration costs, but also the cost to build new projects. Now, additionally, what I'd like to highlight is the year-round warm weather in South Texas, which you can see here, pictured at our Burke Hollow project, allows us to drill and develop throughout the year as we advance our projects, and we have a drilling program coming up at Burke Hollow. Very quickly, our company has about 20, all figures here are, by the way, all figures I've mentioned so far are all in US dollars. And so in US dollars, our company currently has approximately $28 million of cash on hand, about 134 million shares outstanding, just under 200 million of market cap. We trade about 1.5 million shares a day. Our share price has ranged between $1.30 and $1.50. A number of institutional investors from Sprott to KCR to JP Morgan to Mr. Li Ka-shing in Hong Kong are major shareholders, including insiders. If you look at my insider reports and the rest of my teams, we've been buyers of our stock continuously over the last 2 years. And to summarize, it's the infrastructure advantage, but it's one thing that Trump said today during his inauguration speech that I would really want to leave you with. I made note of this. He said, buy American, hire American. That was during today's speech, and I thought it was very fascinating. I think it's an incredible sign of what's about to come, and I believe the next 4 years we're going to see significant growth in the uranium business in the United States, and I believe UEC will be leading that growth. Thank you very much.